In the midst of an otherwise ordinary afternoon, Cristiano Ronaldo is confronted with a devastating scene in his own store. His beloved adopted daughter is being cruelly humiliated, unleashing intense emotions and secrets that are set to change his life forever. Sofia Martinez staggered across the frozen lake, blood trailing behind her in a thin crimson ribbon. Each labored breath created ghostly clouds that dissolved into the night. The package clutched against her chest felt impossibly heavy now, though it contained nothing more than a leather-bound journal and a small wooden box. Behind her, flashlight. Beams swept through the darkness, bouncing off ice crystals in the air. The voices of her pursuers carried over the wind. "She couldn't have gone far," a man shouted. "The storm's getting worse. Find her before she freezes to death." Sofia glanced down at her side, where the knife wound continued to seep through her fingers despite the pressure she applied. The pain had faded to a dull throb, replaced by a more terrifying numbness spreading through her limbs. 20 minutes, she thought. That's all she needed to reach the cabin on the far shore. Her foot slipped, and she crashed to her knees on the ice. The impact sent shards of agony through her body, momentarily clearing the fog from her mind. Sofia looked up at the night sky, where breaks in the clouds revealed pinpricks of starlight. Strange how she'd never noticed their beauty before. How they seemed to pulse with life against the darkness. "I see her." The shout came from much closer than she'd expected. Sofia forced herself upright and stumbled forward, but her legs betrayed her. As she fell again, the wooden box tumbled from her grasp and slid across the ice, stopping in a small drift of snow. She lunged for it, dragging herself forward by her elbows. The beam of a powerful flashlight found her, pinning her in its glare like a specimen on a slide. "Sofia," a deep voice called out. "You've led us on quite a chase." Footsteps crunched across the ice, and a tall figure emerged from the storm. Cristiano Ronaldo's silver hair was dusted with snow, his breath forming clouds around his angular face. The gun in his hand looked almost casual, as if it were merely an extension of his arm. "Just give me the research, Sofia," he said, his voice softening. "You're dying. Let me help you." Sofia's fingers closed around the wooden box, and she clutched it to her chest alongside the journal. When she looked up at her former mentor, a strange calm washed over her. "You still don't understand," she whispered, blood speckling her lips. It was never about the formula. As Cristiano moved closer, Sofia lifted her free hand. Clutched in her palm was a small remote detonator with a single red button. Cristiano froze, his expression shifting from confidence to uncertainty. "What are you doing?" "Finishing what we started." Sofia's thumb hovered over the button. "Some discoveries aren't meant to be made, Cristiano." Behind him, two more figures emerged from the blizzard, guns drawn. "Don't be a fool," Cristiano pleaded. "Think of all we've worked for. Think of what we could achieve together." Sofia's hand trembled. The stars above seemed to brighten, as if leaning in to witness her decision. "I'm thinking of the future," Sofia said, and pressed the button. 5 years earlier, Sofia Martinez had been exactly where she wanted to be, proving herself in the world of high-end sports retail. At 19, she had secured a position as an assistant manager at one of Cristiano Ronaldo's exclusive boutiques in Madrid, determined to succeed on her own merits rather than rely on her connection to the famous footballer who had adopted her just 6 months earlier. That particular morning, she'd arrived early to prepare for a shipment of limited edition athletic shoes that were expected to sell out within hours of release. The store was immaculate, every display arranged with the precision that had already earned her the respect of the other employees, most of whom were unaware that she was the owner's adopted daughter. "You look exhausted," remarked Elena, the senior sales associate who had taken Sofia under her wing. At 52, Elena carried herself with the quiet confidence of a woman who had weathered life's storms and emerged stronger. Her kind eyes were the first thing that had made Sofia feel welcome when she'd started the job. "Just nervous about today's launch," Sofia replied, adjusting a display of soccer cleats. "These are the shoes Cristiano wore in last season's championship. People have been camping outside since yesterday." The mention of her adoptive father highlighted the peculiar nature of their relationship. Cristiano was not actually related to her by blood, but he had taken her in after meeting her at a charity event for vulnerable youth. For Sophia, who had grown up in an orphanage where she'd developed a fierce independence and emotional resilience, accepting his help had been challenging enough. Taking his name or publicly acknowledging their relationship was something she wasn't ready for yet. Later that day, as the store filled with excited customers, Sophia managed the crowd with calm efficiency. She was in her element, discussing technical specifications of the footwear with serious athletes, while also helping casual fans find the perfect souvenir. What she didn't notice were the group of young influencers who had entered with cameras, rolling. "Hey you," called one of them, a young man with carefully styled hair and an expensive watch. "We need someone to show us the VIP collection." Sophia approached them professionally. "Of course, the limited editions are displayed in the case near the back wall. I'd be happy to—" "Not those," interrupted a young woman beside him, her phone pointed directly at Sophia's face. "We want to see the ones they keep in the back for actual important people." "I'm afraid all our merchandise is available for viewing on the floor," Sophia explained patiently. "We don't have separate inventory for VIPs." What followed was a deliberately staged scene. As Sophia turned to help another customer, one of the influencers accidentally bumped into a carefully arranged tower of shoeboxes, sending dozens of expensive sneakers tumbling across the polished floor. Their companions erupted in laughter as they filmed Sophia dropping to her knees to gather the scattered merchandise. "The gerente bastarda can't even organize a store properly," they jeered in Spanish, making sure their followers could hear. Sophia felt her cheeks burn with humiliation, but years in the orphanage had taught her to contain her emotions. She focused on gathering the boxes, keeping her face carefully neutral despite the mocking laughter. What no one in the store realized was that Cristiano Ronaldo himself had just entered through the back entrance. He had planned to surprise Sophia, curious to see how she was performing in the job she had insisted on getting without his influence. What he saw instead was his adopted daughter being humiliated for the entertainment of strangers. For a moment, Cristiano considered making a scene. His first instinct was to use his celebrity to shame the bullies, to exercise the power that came with being one of the world's most famous athletes. Instead, he pulled on a baseball cap and sunglasses from a nearby display and quietly joined. Sophia on the floor helping her stack the fallen boxes. "You don't have to do this," Sophia whispered when she recognized him, mortification coloring her cheeks. "Neither do you," he replied softly, continuing to gather the scattered shoes. The influencers, still filming and laughing, suddenly fell silent as Cristiano removed his sunglasses and stood to his full height. The recognition that spread across their faces would have been comical in any other context. "I think," he said calmly, "that you owe my manager an apology." What followed wasn't the angry tirade they might have expected from a celebrity, but something far more effective. Cristiano spoke to them about respect, about the difference between attention and influence, about how their actions represented not just themselves, but their generation. By the time he finished, the young influencers were not only apologizing, but deleting the footage they had captured. Sophia watched this unfold with complex emotions churning inside her. On one hand, she felt a surge of gratitude for his intervention. On the other, deep embarrassment that he had witnessed her moment of vulnerability. She had spent every day since leaving the orphanage trying to prove that she was strong enough to stand on her own, that she deserved the chance he had given her, not through pity, but through merit. "You didn't need to do that," she said later, after the store had closed and they sat in his sleek sports car outside the boutique. "I could have handled it." Cristiano studied her face, noting the stubborn set of her jaw, an expression he had come to recognize over the 6 months since he'd brought her into his home. "I know you could have," he said finally, "but that doesn't mean you should have to." Sophia looked away, watching pedestrians pass by the tinted windows without recognizing the famous athlete in their midst. "I don't want special treatment, especially not because I'm connected to you." It wasn't special treatment, Sophia. It was basic human decency. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "You know, accepting help doesn't make you weak. Sometimes it takes more strength to let others in than to stand alone. This philosophy stood in stark contrast to everything Sophia had learned growing up. In the orphanage, vulnerability had been exploited, trust had been punished, and independence had been her only reliable shield. The idea that strength could be found in connection rather than isolation was foreign and frightening. Yet as she looked at Cristiano, this man who had achieved everything through talent and determination, who could have chosen anyone to mentor but had chosen her, she felt something shift within her. Perhaps there was something to learn here, something beyond the technical skills of retail management or the business of sports merchandising. "I'm still not calling you Dad," she said, a rare smile softening her features. Cristiano laughed, the tension between them dissolving. "Fair enough, but would you at least consider coming to dinner on Sunday? My wife is beginning to think you're avoiding her cooking." This was the beginning of a gradual transformation in their relationship. Over the following months, Sophia slowly allowed herself to become part of Cristiano's family. His wife, initially cautious about the adoption, began teaching Sophia about business management and encouraging her to pursue formal education in the field. Cristiano's biological son, however, struggled with jealousy over the attention his new sister received. Sophia's determination to prove herself led to rapid advancement within the company. Within a year, she was managing the flagship store in Madrid, her natural talent for organization and her multilingual abilities making her a valuable asset. Yet she still refused to use the Ronaldo name professionally, determined that her success should be earned rather than inherited. The true test of their relationship came when Cristiano faced a public relations crisis after making controversial comments during an interview. The backlash threatened not only his personal brand, but the entire retail empire he had built alongside his sporting career. Sophia, drawing on her understanding of social media and youth culture, developed a strategy that not only contained the damage but ultimately strengthened his connection with fans. It was the first time she had openly used her skills to help him, rather than solely focusing on proving her independence. The experience taught her that interdependence wasn't the same as dependence, that strength could be found in the exchange of support rather than in isolation. As Cristiano began to contemplate retirement from professional football, he increasingly looked to Sophia for input on the future direction of his business interests. What had begun as a mentorship was evolving into a partnership, with each bringing different perspectives and strengths to the table. The transformation in their relationship reached a symbolic turning point during a traditional Spanish family celebration. After years of maintaining a certain emotional distance, Sophia finally allowed herself to be fully embraced by the extended Ronaldo family, participating in the rituals and traditions that had previously made her uncomfortable. The warm inclusion by Cristiano's parents, siblings, and extended family showed her what it meant to belong to something larger than herself. Then came the health crisis that would redefine everything. Cristiano's collapse during a charity match sent shockwaves through the sporting world. The undiagnosed heart condition required immediate surgery and a lengthy recovery. For the first time since she had known him, the man who had always seemed invincible was vulnerable, dependent on others for his most basic needs. Sophia abandoned her responsibilities at the store without hesitation, moving temporarily into his hospital room despite the protests of medical staff. She coordinated with his wife to ensure he was never alone, managed the barrage of press inquiries, and kept the business running through remote work from a chair beside his bed. During his recovery, Sophia saw a side of Cristiano she had never witnessed before, moments of fear, of uncertainty about the future, of reflection on mortality. The man who had always seemed to control every aspect of his environment was suddenly at the mercy of his body's limitations. One night, as she sat beside his hospital bed reviewing inventory reports on her laptop, he spoke the words that would ultimately change both their lives. "I've been thinking about legacy," he said, his voice still weak from surgery. "About what matters when everything else is stripped away." Sophia set aside her computer, giving him her full attention. "And what have you decided?" "That all of this," he gestured vaguely toward the window, where the lights of Madrid twinkled beyond the glass. The fame, the records, even the business. None of it matters without purpose. He explained his vision then, transforming his retail empire into something that would offer opportunities to young people like Sophia had once been. Orphans and disadvantaged youth who needed not charity, but a chance to prove their worth. The stores would become training grounds, the profits would fund education, and the brand would stand for something beyond luxury and exclusivity. "I'll need help," he admitted, and the humility in his voice told Sophia how difficult those words were for a man who had built his life on self-sufficiency. Someone who understands both worlds, mine and theirs. As Sophia listened, she felt the last of her resistance crumbling. For years, she had maintained a careful distance, accepting his help while insisting on her independence. Now he was offering not just inclusion in his family, but partnership in a vision that spoke to her deepest values. "I think I know someone who might be qualified," she said, her usual guardedness giving way to a genuine smile. The months that followed were transformative for both of them. As Cristiano gradually recovered his physical strength, they worked together to reimagine the business. Sophia's experiences in the orphanage proved invaluable in designing programs that would provide not just employment, but dignity and growth opportunities. Her insistence on merit-based advancement rather than charity aligned perfectly with Cristiano's own philosophy of earning success through hard work. By the time Cristiano was ready to announce his retirement from professional football, the plans for the foundation were well underway. What had begun as a luxury retail business was evolving into something with far greater purpose, a bridge between the privileged world of high-end sports and the struggling communities that produced so many talented but overlooked young people. The press conference announcing both his retirement and the new direction for the business became a defining moment in their relationship. Standing beside him on the podium, Sophia publicly acknowledged for the first time her position not just as his business partner, but as his daughter. When a journalist asked how she felt about being the daughter of the champion, her response captured the journey they had taken together. "I'm grateful for his name," she said, looking directly at Cristiano, "but I'm more proud to have earned his respect." In that moment, both recognized how far they had come. He from seeing her as someone to rescue, she from seeing him as someone to resist. What had begun in that Madrid boutique with a simple act of kindness amid humiliation had evolved into a relationship built on mutual respect, shared vision, and the recognition that true strength comes not from standing alone, but from standing together. The transformation of both the business and their relationship became a powerful testimony to what could happen when talent met opportunity, when privilege was leveraged for purpose, and when independence gave way to the greater strength found in connection. As they left the press conference together, fielding questions and sharing knowing glances that spoke of inside jokes and shared battles, it was clear that the real championship wasn't found in Cristiano's impressive collection of trophies, but in the victory they had won over their own limitations. His need to rescue, her need to resist. In finding the balance between independence and connection, they had discovered something far more valuable than either could have achieved alone, a legacy that would outlast them both.